Hey, so I've had some folks asking me about GitHub Classroom and getting started, so I just want to show how I'm going to do this from scratch. I'm on classroom.github.com/classrooms, and I'm logged in through my GitHub account. So this can be either through your enterprise account, if you have one with your institution, or just your personal one. I'm in my personal one here. So I'm going to go to New Classroom. And here you're going to see I have a list of organizations here. So these are from my other classrooms, but you might not have any at this time. So let's create an organization here. My organization name here, I'm going to give it a name. This is going to be for my personal GitHub account. And let's go ahead and do Spring 21 Building Game Engines. This is going to be the repository. My email, just my personal one, and then the next step here. Okay, so now it looks like, let's see if that organization came up. And, well, I don't see it because I need to actually grant access first. I'm going to click on that next to grant access. And I see that we have this new Spring 21 Building Game Engines repository that's been created. So I'm going to grant that access, type in my super secret GitHub password. And then I'll go back to GitHub Classroom and I'm going to refresh, and hopefully I should see, and I do, Spring 21 Building Game Engines. So I'm going to click on it and proceed from here. So I've got my Spring 21 Building Game Engines. I'm just going to get rid of this. This is going to be the classroom name. And students will see this in their URL for their classroom. So I just want to make it as clean as possible. Okay. So at this point, let me just continue and then I'll talk about sort of setting up. I have my students set up a different way. I don't use any of these tools right now, but you can connect through Canvas and so on. So one of the first things you might want to do is go to your TAs and admins and send them this link. So this could be to their personal GitHub account, for example, or or their institution if you're using your institution's GitHub. Okay. Students is where you'll see your roster, and settings. I always show this to my teaching assistants. I tell them not to click this big red button here that deletes your classroom. So far, I haven't really had to deal with this, but this is just something I point out to not click at any point during the semester. Okay. And then, you can play around with some of these other tools. I am looking at some of the integrations. Perhaps that'll be something I talk about in the future. But for now, let's go ahead and create an assignment here. And I'm going to create this assignment. I just run my course with one repository where I push out individual assignments to students, and I ask them to do a Git pull periodically or at a regular time. Or, of course, students will, when they try to commit something, get a sort of pull message. So let me go ahead and just show an example of a repository I have here where I create a separate assignment, or rather a separate directory per assignment here. So when they do a git pull, there's no merge conflicts really to worry about because it's in its own directory. So I'm just very careful about how I deliver new assignments in that manner. Okay. So let's continue creating this assignment. I just called monorepo, and that's sort of the default repository. This is going to be an individual assignment, but you can do the same thing for a group if you have students working together. I always make these private so that the repositories also aren't just hanging out on the web, so you don't have to worry, or at least we'll attempt to limit plagiarism issues if you offer assignments again or whatever. And I don't give my students admin access to their repository. Again, this is because I don't want them to be able to change like their visibility of their repo or just invite other collaborators or things like that. So they're sort of under my control unless there's reason to do so. Now, the next thing you'll want to do is add starter code to your repository. Okay, so GitHub Classroom gives you two options: this sort of template repository, which you can use for your assignments, or you can give them some starter code here. So I need to sort of select a repository for my assignments. So let me go ahead and create this repository. So let me see if I have Spring 21 building game engines here. So I'm just going to go into github.com, Spring 21 building game engines. And you'll see this is that organization that we created. And I'm going to create a new repository here. This is private in my account. And I like to name these monorepo templates because this is my template repository. Let's add a README file and I will create that repository. Okay, so this will take just a moment to create. So there it is. I'm going to copy this URL just so I remember it. It's a little bit easier here. Copy it, but this is what students will initially get once they accept your assignment, whatever goes in here. Now I can modify this as much as I want, and then when they accept my assignment, they'll get whatever the latest version of this monorepo template is if you have students adding assignments. There's some other cool GitHub Classroom stuff at this moment, like the online IDE that you could use. I've played around with it a little bit, but I don't need it for this course, so feel free to, you can add those things later. You can add some auto grading tests. You can, of course, add GitHub Actions sort of retroactively if you want to your template and have students pull those. So those are some options. And something I am going to be playing around with and using is students can get feedback if you have teaching assistants by having the TAs essentially do pull requests that are merged into their repos where they can, add comments or whatever on feedback. And this is one way that you can sort of give line by line feedback. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this assignment. And that's it. So this is the assignment URL that you can pass on to students. So let's go ahead and just make one small modification here. So I'm going to change the repo and say, please add your name. A lot of students don't have the same GitHub username as their real name or whatever name they prefer to go by. So I like to add, please add your name and pronunciation. You get the idea. So sort of how they prefer to be referred to in your class, just so you have that. And that makes grading a little bit easier. So that's a tip that I've learned. So anyway, so you see the latest version of this repo template. And this is the assignment URL here. So let's go ahead and create another window, and you can kind of see things in action here. So I'm just going to visit this URL. And it's going to ask me, this could be something they click on your website URL or you send it in a private email. But it's going to create monorepo hyphen my name, Mike Shaw, my GitHub name. And I'll accept this assignment. So I'll take a moment to accept here. And, well, I have accepted this. It might take a few minutes to complete, et cetera, et cetera. So let's go ahead and see if that worked. So what I can do is I'm just going to copy this URL here from my template. And remember, it's monorepo, the assignment name hyphen, and it's going to be whatever the student's GitHub username is. So Mike Shaw. And if I do this, this might take a few minutes to set up. Occasionally, it might not work. And if that's the case, if the import didn't work, I can go to settings and actually delete this repository. So let's go ahead and do this. I don't see the message here that I added. So I need to please type in all this. I'm going to cheat and copy and paste. So that's gone. So I'll actually re-accept the assignment here. So let me copy and paste this back in here. I am re-invited or remembered me from the past here. And let's just give that a moment or two to refresh here. Now, occasionally I have had issues where you get a little error message here and you have to like re-accept the assignment because I did the deletion or whatever. And again, it could take a few minutes to complete. So another sort of top tip is I always try to end the very first class that I do with students, if I'm with them in person, by them clicking on accepting the, whatever the first assignment is, just so they go through the process and understand it, or just online send out the invitation URL. I've had students report to me that their repo wasn't there, but then it showed up an hour later or however long. So just something to be aware of. So eventually, we'll say, hey, you're ready to go, and pass you this assignment here, and hopefully it'll work. And I've just noticed that the latest Classroom, so some folks who might have used Classroom, again, I got this page here that didn't show up. It says it must be a template repository, so we do have to convert the repository to a template assignment here. So I guess that's fine. It doesn't really make a difference here. So I think I will click this checkbox, make it a template repository, and I think that's all I have to do here. So it should be all set. Let me just go back and forth to make sure. Yep, it's checked there. So I think I'll run through this process one more time. Let me, click on the repository, delete it once more, and then accept this assignment here. The reason they're using templates is because they load a little bit faster. That's my understanding. So I think that's fine for now. Okay, so this repository has been deleted. Let's accept the assignment once more. So sorry, or actually, I'm glad this is happening so you can see, well, one, there's the students that showed up, and then they should disappear now that they're no longer. But you can see some of the troubleshooting steps in case things don't go perfectly. Okay, so once again, accept this assignment, and you can, you will get the emails as students accept the assignments, which is just one thing to look out for. But let's give this a moment or two to refresh. Okay, and by the power of video editing, the repository is up and running once again. But I'm going to troubleshoot just one more time. I promised the last time, just so you can see all the, or as many of the possible errors that I can give you. But let's create our monorepo. I don't know how many times we've done this, 3 times. Another individual assignment with a private repository. I think converting a private repository, if it's not a template repository already, so if you don't see this private template, you're probably just going to keep getting this, none of the files are actually going to get imported. So I want to do this just one more time. Select the repository. Let's see, invitation. So let's see, it's Spring 21 Building Game Engine / the monorepo template. Let's see, it'll usually auto-complete it here. Continue. We don't need any tests, so I'll create the assignment. So apparently important that you do create this as a template repository first. So we'll look for monorepo 3 here, the assignment here. So then this will be monorepo 3 hyphen Mike Shaw. Let me refresh. Fingers crossed this will work. It says it's been created, and voila, here we are with our file here. So you've seen enough of this, but now all of your students that click on this link will get the whatever the file structure is of that monorepo template. And then they can edit this, and let's just go ahead and have them edit this, Mike Shaw pronunciation, however you want to do, like this. Commit the changes. You can have them work in different branches too, depending on what level you're working on, what level course that may or may not make sense, even for the assignments if you want to sort of track things that way. But I just want to show that, hey, I made a change here on the Mike Shaw, but that's not going to affect the, again, the template repository. It's still its own thing. So again, this is only affecting monorepo 3, Mike Shaw, which inherited this template or copied the files over here, but it is not going to make changes, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, I think I've covered everything. I've made enough mistakes that you can hopefully troubleshoot them. if they come up. And hopefully GitHub Classroom is a time-saving tool for you.